This is the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition. Coming up.
From the red wines, my favorite is Fetasca Neagra, because when you open it, it literally smells like anything but wine.
We produced orange wine, kosher. It's something new, and I believe the people will like it.
Is it KGB who invented this story about an air crash over Kazan to cover the truth? We don't know and barely will ever know.
So sit back and enjoy the trip with Mark Gordon and David Harris.
Oh, Mark.
Oh, David.
Right now, it's very early in the morning. I'm tired.
We've just arrived in Moldova.
Our voices are so deep.
Mine's normally deep. I'm like the Barry White of podcasting.
Old Man River.
Anybody who's still listening after that?
Anybody who's old enough to remember what that is?
Not many. Happy birthday, David.
Oh, sweetheart.
Thank you.
That's another reason that I sound like this. I'm now 60.
Nearly.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, no, by the time this comes out, you are 60.
I was thinking ahead.
Hopefully you'll still be with us.
This is my pre-60th birthday trip. Oh, we're getting looks from our flatmate, our roommate. Yes, JC.
Old Man River is Paul Robeson, not Barry White.
JC just said, Old Man River is Paul Robeson, not Barry White.
Who's JC, by the way?
JC is another person who's celebrating their birthday the same day as me, and he's a friend of ours, and he's with us. You may or may not hear from him, or you might just hear him cursing in the background.
I'm the only person that doesn't have a birthday here.
Oh,
that's why.
Whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Methuselah.
He has like 1,000
birthdays. Or it could be like the Queen and have it, or the King and have 2 a year. So we've arrived in the Moldovan capital. Okay, now it's my turn to butcher names because in all of the preparation I've been saying Chișinău, and apparently it's Chișinău.
Chișinău. I think in the old days it used to be called Chișinău, and still in Israel, when you're getting on the flight, it's to Chișinău.
And the funny thing is, I butchered that as well because I always say Chișinău.
Is it Chișinău? It's never Chișinău, is it?
I have
no idea.
Right, it might be Chișinău. I always say Chișinău.
So there are two things we're going to focus on here. There was a very large Jewish community here. There's still a decent-sized Jewish community,
right.
But this is what was called Bessarabia at one point, as well as being called Moldavia and also being part of the Russian Pale of Settlement.
Well, wasn't Moldavia also bits of Romania? It's a very complicated history.
Like lots of Central Europe. It's had many rulers, many queens, many kings, many dictators along the way.
And visiting armies who aren't always necessarily the most friendly to the locals.
But one of the ways in Moldova that they get friendly is there's wine everywhere. This is wine country.
So over the next bit, we will do wineries, look out for kosher news, and we'll do Jews.
Yes. But first,
yes,
should we have a quiz question?
I suppose it's probably the first intelligent thing we've done on this podcast. I don't know how intelligent you have to be to
I do promise you it is about 8 o'clock in the morning. We haven't started any of the wineries
yet.
Right,
go for it.
The quiz question does bring in one of those themes.
Jews.
Possibly, but I don't think so. Let me get the quiz question. Which famous Soviet leader reportedly got so drunk in Moldova that he temporarily disappeared inside a wine cellar? Is it Stalin, Khrushchev, Yuri Andropov, or Leonid Brezhnev?
I'm looking forward to getting lost inside a wine barrel. The answer at the end of the pod.
This is Mark Gordon from the Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition. Find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at MarkDavidPod or mail us at markdavidpod@gmail.com.
Hello, you are welcome to the Jewish Memorial Cemetery of Chișinău, the open-air museum, the part of the Jewish History Museum of the Republic of Moldova. I am the director, PhD Irina Shihova, and we are here on the place.
I was going to say I've been lucky enough to come here before, but I don't know if you say lucky with cemeteries. I came here 18 months ago. It seems a lot more organised. Now there seems to be an exhibition space on the wall. Tell us about the development of the cemetery as a project and as a museum project.
We are just in the initial steps of museification of this cemetery. We started it thinking over it in 23, actually, so it's just in the very, very first steps, and we are very pressed with the budget, so it's more about thinking and creating the ideas and elaborating the ideas than fulfilling them. But we have a vision how to recreate the cemetery into the open-air museum.
25,000 people buried here. From when until when?
What we have today is the newer part of the cemetery since early 20th century. One of the oldest graves date back to the Chișinău pogrom of 1903. But we had here historically the older part since early 19th century. So the cemetery we discovered these documents. We are working in the archives for the historical background and documental background. We were lucky to discover a decree that established this Jewish cemetery here in 1815. So the oldest part dated back to 1815. But what we have today is mostly from 20th century, except the one I will show you later.
There's a wide variety of different sorts of graves here. I know, having been to cemeteries in England, all the heights are the same. They don't stand out. They all try and, you may have slightly different stone. Here, it's almost like a sculpture exhibition in some places. Tell us why there's so much variety. Like, some of them are in cages, some have Hebrew, some don't have Hebrew. A little bit about the differences in the gravestones.
First of all, it was never standardized. So people never were made to make their graves, their matzevot, standard in similar style. And the style actually depends on the personal tastes and financial possibilities of the family on one hand, and on the period, on the time frame when they were raised on the other hand. That makes much difference, because the older ones are very recognizable and they're exclusively in Hebrew, those from early 20th century until Shoah, I would say. Then we had a transitive period when there were quite a few matzevot with two languages, Hebrew plus Russian, sometimes Hebrew plus Romanian. And then in later Soviet times, Russian predominated, so very few Hebrew inscriptions in 70s. And back then, in late 19th, in 20s, in modern time, when the cemetery was reopened again, we have again Hebrew inscriptions, sometimes only Russian, sometimes Romanian, sometimes only Hebrew, sometimes both Hebrew and Russian or Romanian. That's a very personal thing. That means that the family grave is considered a family privacy, a family ownership, and people are deciding how to do this, and that's a speaking feature.
Perhaps the most unique grave in here is behind us at the moment. It's a column, is it a basilisk?
A vertical stela with a propeller, you mean?
Why is there a propeller in the middle of a cemetery?
When we say propeller, we're talking about the type of thing that fits on a plane, and it's 3-4 meters in size?
Like that, yes. I would say 3, but I'm bad with measuring. That's a grave of a pilot, an army pilot, Alexander Bogusevich, and we know his dates of life. He was born in 1930 and died in 1953. And there are two versions of his death. So both say he was an army pilot, but his family member told me a story that he died in air battle in Korean War, where the Soviet Union pretended not to participate. But on the Russian version of Wikipedia exists an entry that says that he, among the others, died in air crash in a disaster near Kazan, in the middle of Russia. Which one is the truth? We don't know. Is this the family who legendarized the death of their members? Or is it KGB who invented this story about an air crash over Kazan to cover the truth. We don't know and barely will ever know. But for us, this blinking story is telling something about the period itself. I love this approach.
We've walked through parts of the graveyard, had more explanations from Irina. We came to a building which clearly is in very much need of repair. If you go to the metal corroded gate and you look through one of the holes in it, you see what was clearly a hall. Above it, it has a little cupola. They don't think that this was the Bet Tahara, the place of final purification of the body, but it might have been a funeral hall from where the bodies would be taken for burial. And we've walked another 20 meters or so and come to what looks like almost the entrance to a synagogue, or even perhaps what you would see at the front of a synagogue, the Aron Kodesh. It's all brick, red brick, and at the top there is a Star of David, and below it the Ten Commandments, and below that what looks like a cemented, walled up entrance that would have been to a synagogue, or where you would have taken the Torah scrolls from. And beneath it are steps. Where are we going? We're heading down now.
So that was created in 1903 after the Chișinău pogrom.
Watch your head.
Yes, it's low, but for me it's okay. As a gniza, a Beit Gniza, it's written here inside.
So we're going inside. Irina just unlocked the door. She's got a flashlight on her phone. We're in a space which is only, say, 5 meters maximum in length by maybe 2 meters in width.
It's low. So that's a crypt created as a Beit Gniza, a house for a Geniza, 4 Torah scrolls unkoshered in Chișinău pogrom 1903, and we have the images of this procession of burying the Torah scrolls from the synagogue moving here to the cemetery. In July, the pogrom itself happened in April 03. It was July 25 of 03. So the Geniza was a little bit larger here. And then, when the older part of the cemetery was demolished, 2 great rabbis were reburied here next to the Gniza. So actually it is a Gniza and a Nohel for 2 great rabbis. One of them died in 1824, and it's a famous Rabbi Leibush, Yehuda Leib. And the second one is our famous, known in our local history, Yehuda Leib Tzirlson, whose name were the street, whose name were the Hesed organization. So that's one of the most eminent Jewish people in Moldova, Bessarabia, who served as a chief rabbi of Chișinău and Bessarabia since 1909 till 41, when he died in one of the very first bombings of Chișinău in the Second World War.
If we were to cut through the wall of the crypt directly behind where I am standing, what would we find?
There is a sector of Chișinău pogrom victims from 03. So between the funeral hall and the Beit Gniza, there is a sector of Chișinău pogrom victims who are buried there, one next to another.
While we were at the top of this crypt, you mentioned another rabbi from Bessarabia, Fishman Maimon, who is famous in the history of Israel. What's his connection with the area?
He was born in one of our Jewish colonies. Colonies, one is a specific type of Jewish settlements in the Russian Empire, Markulești. It's to the north from here, about 100 kilometers. Then he served as a chief rabbi of the other Jewish shtetl Ungeni. And then he made Aliyah and affected much and made much to create the Jewish state. And he was the one who not just signed the Declaration of Israeli Independence, but he wrote in the corner the blessing, a bracha. So he is the one who blessed the Jewish state to exist.
Why do this? This is a place of the past. These people are gone. Whether it's 200 years ago, whether it's 1903, whether it's somebody who was buried here recently. A museum, your passion, raising money to restore this place. Why?
For me personally, that's me. That's part of me. That comes from inside. I always loved this cemetery culture. It may sound strange, but that is something that is a vivid museum, not created by the museographers who tend to tell me the story they consider, but the one that tells its own story itself. That's why I love the cemeteries as they are, year by year, compiled by themselves, by people. Wherever I'm visiting, I try to visit the Jewish cemeteries if it's a Jewish place. And they are very different, with different shapes, but with the same vibe and the same symbolism that I can recognize as a researcher.
The Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition.
They would always say he has a sword in one hand and a marriage contract in the other.
Sancocho is made only with 3 ingredients, ñame, culantro, and also with chicken.
I had the hot stone massage. Either that or I left a couple of empanadas on my back.
Come for the destination and stay for the banter. The Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition.
Irina isn't just interested in all things Jewish, more to come, but has brought us out to a place called Old Orhei, or Orhei Vek.
Orheiul Vek.
Orheiul Vek.
Orheiul.
The Old Orhei. So we have Orhei as a new town that was established in 17th century, and the previous settlement of Orhei was somewhere here before, not right here on the same place, but the oral history says that is the Old Orhei.
So the wonderful Teo from the local tourism organisation, who's been our driver before we got here, brought us to a cave which was a man-made cave, a limestone mine. Tell us a little bit about, what did you call it, the Stone Age?
Stone Age. It's a restaurant and a complex of Stone Age, created rather recently, maybe like 10 years ago, in the former mine. Mining the limestone is very typical for Moldova in general, and we have plenty of these former mines that are not working anymore. But one of them is here, used as a cave restaurant and presumably a hotel in future and something else.
And if you're looking for it on the internet, it was called Epoca de Patra or de Piatra.
Good knowledge. So, Mark, from there, we stopped at an amazing viewpoint of what I initially thought might be a crater, but Irina said, actually, it's been created by a meandering river. Just stunning, beautiful vistas. In the distance, you could see a couple of villages, graveyard, a monastery up on top.
From there, we walked half a kilometre, 500-600 steps, uphill for the first 100, but then it's plain sailing all the way. And you come to this really amazing building built into the side of the limestone, really. It looks very small. There's this small door, a small front of a church. Above is the bell tower. You open the door and you go down 8 or 9 dark, large steps. And then you come into, I suppose it's a small church, with a little wizened old monk there with his beard going, shh.
Father Yefim for Joachim. We know that from our perspective he's Joachim, and in the Christian culture he's Yefim. That we know about him. He's here every day, every single day. Whenever I came here 10 years ago, 15 years ago, he's here praying and saying shh to the visitors.
We went out of the back of the church to yet another view.
From there you can see there is no guard, there is an open space, a small balcony showing us a great landscape to the river and rocks and the hills on the other side. So that's a sort of a cup inside the land, and that's an amazing view, and I personally love it much. It's my favorite view, just to have a rest for my breath and for my eyes.
For those of you looking for colourful pictures, this 20 minutes, half an hour, it's just stunning. Either side, on the Belvedere Point or on the back of the church, it just gives you such breathtaking views. Really recommend it.
If you are fearful of heights, just a warning that the vista is wonderful at the bottom of the church, but you are very, very much on the precipice.
I believe you can go further up the hill where the monastery is. I think that's even more guardrail free if you want to go around the other side reading the reviews. So I think with lunch calling, I'll skip the guardrail free part.
Hello, my name is Sergiu and welcome to Chateau Varteli. Chateau is a distinction which we're having when you only, do your close production line. So from our own grapes to the embalming pot, everything is ours. But besides that, the actual name Varteli comes from two old Hungarian words. So Var and Heli, which means place for the castle. The foreigners used to call our city Orhei Varhei. So this is the same thing, for example, with Romania, which was called Valahia. So it is actually the name which the foreigners put to our city.
What type of wines, grapes do you grow, do you produce here?
We produced mostly European ones. So from the white variety, we have, of course, Chardonnay, we have Pinot Gris, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Grigio, Riesling, and also of local ones, so Fetească Regală and Viorica. Viorica, by the way, is one of the most famous because it's literally like some sort of fragrance when you try to open a bottle of it. Other than that, from the red varieties, we have, of course, Cabernet Sauvignon, we have Merlot, we have Pinot Noir, we have also Fetească Neagră, Rară Neagră, we have Malbec, we have Syrah, so yes, the list goes on. And also let's not forget about Saperavi, which is a very special sort of wine because it has its red and it had its pulp and its skin also red, so just like not any of the other wines.
Moldova is synonymous with big, large underground wineries. How does this winery differentiate from these giant wineries?
The company was only founded in 1996 and the complex was being opened in 2008. That's why most tourists are actually calling us like a niche winery because not many people know about us. We're not operating at a large scale like Krikovas or Milești Mici wineries. We do not produce as many bottles, and by the way, only 10% of our production stays in the local market. The other 90% goes into 36 countries. So when you divide, about 2 million at most of bottles per year, when you divide that with 36 countries, including ours, so it is not going to be a large number. That's why I think more people are still trying to discover our winery.
Where are the leading markets for you?
The leading markets are very, let's say, different than you would actually think because the first ranked country last year was Czech Republic, but the second one might sound a bit interesting because it was Nigeria. And we have the ambassador of our company, which is Miss Nigeria 2023, and she actually been to our complex the last year. So yes, it is a pretty interesting one because I think that Nigeria, if I'm correct, has 50% of its population Muslim.
More than these days, yeah.
Right, they love dry red wines, so full-bodied and heavily ones, which have more complex levels of flavor. Like the second glass is going to be different than the third one, and so on.
If you need an ambassador for Israel, David is here. He's quite happy to be Mr. Israel 2026.
Do you drink wine?
No, so I did only actually tasted them for you to be able to present and have an idea of what I'm actually talking about, because theoretical information is nothing without practice. But yes, only in small amounts. From the red wines, my favorite is Fetească Neagră, because when you open it, it literally smells like anything but wine. So it's like an old apartment with oak furniture and squeaky floors and everything. But after that, it grows into something more fruity, like blackberries, dried, dehydrated palm, and so on. So also with some sort of tobacco leaf. So it is something pretty interesting.
Forgive me for saying this. You look very youthful, But you're a real expert at this. You must have been doing this for years.
No, I mean, I just sound that way, to be fair. You have to really bring an expert, and he's going to, reveal the fact that I still have a lot to,
So tell the truth, how long have you been doing this?
So I've been working there for a bit longer than a month, so a month and 2 weeks or something like this.
Do you realise that in about 6 months he will have written the ultimate guide to wines of Moldova? Sergio, is there a website that people can find out more, maybe order if they want to?
Yes, definitely. We have our Chateau Varteli website, which is actually in 3 languages, so also Russian, Romanian, including English, so it is really, easy to find us on the internet. And, the production or let's say, if you want to import some of our bottles, you can do that with private companies.
Sergio, enough of the talking. Let's go and see some barrels. Let's go and see some macerating, and let's go and drink some wine.
Yes, definitely, I agree with you. So let's do that.
The Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition.
White sausage, which we eat for breakfast, with a Weiss beer and a sweet mustard and pretzel.
If your test looks like that, you are in a lot of trouble.
The toilet is open to the public for viewing only.
From Jerusalem to just about everywhere, the Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition.
Mark and JC and I have left the winery. We're still with the lovely Irina, and she wants to talk to us about another Jewish cemetery, another community. I think lots of people who are Jewish or interested in Judaism know the name of Chișinău, or as it was previously, because of the pogrom that we discussed. But I assume Jews lived in many other places throughout this land.
Of course, the more to the north, the more Jewish population it was by the end of 19th century and by the pre-World War II times. So up to 90%, up to 70-some% in most settlements, in shtetls, in so-called colonies that were settled intentionally for Jewish agriculture.
Perhaps you can tell us a little about the history of the Orhei Jewish Cemetery.
We made the research and we know that the old part goes back to early 18th century at least. Maybe there are some matzevot dated back to late 17th century, but early 18th we discovered and dated. The Jewish community of Orhei was accordingly old enough and valuable enough for the Jewish culture of Moldova. So if you are looking for something outside of Chișinău, but something Jewish and not so far in the distance of 1 hour with a car, so Jewish Orhei in general and Jewish cemetery of Orhei here is a must.
A lot of visitors that go to Jewish cemeteries go for 2 reasons. First one is they have relatives buried there, and the second one is because there's somebody famous buried there. In this particular cemetery, are there any famous rabbis or famous personalities?
Not that famous as we have in Chișinău, but there are local people that are relevant and important for the local society, mostly from 20th century, the teachers, the merchants. So that's not worldwide known people, but the locally known people.
David and I have travelled extensively across the Central European region. The experience in some areas is that the Nazis destroyed everything in front of them. And you see graveyards where the stones have been turned into floors of churches, roads. What's the experience here in Moldova?
The Nazis did not destroy much the Jewish heritage. The Jewish people, yes, the Jewish heritage less. The Soviet power destroyed much of Jewish heritage and non-Jewish as well. The Orhei Jewish cemetery is relatively intact in these terms. Till today they bury there. And the cemetery, as you can see, is large. We consider it's about 15,000 graves. And it shows the historical type of burials and historical types of separately women, separately men. Not the entire graveyard. Some parts are.
In parts of Central Europe, we've come across local people, not Jewish, who once a month, once every few months, we'll go into a local Jewish cemetery and tidy up. We'll cut the grass. We'll make sure that the matzevot are upright. Is there anything similar to that? Does that happen at all in Moldova?
Yes, we have quite a few Jewish cemeteries that are kept by the locals, local non-Jewish people. So non-Jews are working for the Jewish cemetery of Chișinău as the museum. It's for salary, it's not volunteer work. We have a few families that took the responsibility for some particular Jewish cemeteries that live next to them and know their cemetery as their own backyard and take care of it.
If people want to find out more about the Jewish community, the Jewish museum and the cemeteries, where can they go to?
We have a website, we have an organization called Magid, so it's not about Great Magid, it's about the moving people who are telling the stories. It's all about me, as you can see, who is guiding and educating. So our website is magid.org.
Magid, MAGHID.org. Irina, thank you so much for having spent this day with us, not just on your projects, but be willing to join us in all sorts of other activities. It's been our pleasure and honour.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to talk always with people who are really interested in something new and something that is not so close to them, but telling the stories.
Good morning. Another day, another winery. But before that, we're going to tell you what Shabbat is like in the Moldovan capital. We came back from our trip to Orhei to see winery, to learn about the Jewish community up there. And it was just before Shabbat.
Shabbat, we did what we like to do when we're travelling. We found the nearest Chabad house and we joined them for dinner. Very interesting group of people there, people on their travels, some local people, the rabbi there and the junior rabbi, Shneur Zalman, made us feel very welcome. We ate well, we drank well.
It's interesting you said we went to meal and we didn't go to religious services. You didn't mention that bit.
Well, personal beliefs, but yeah, we joined in the religious services as well.
Let's talk a little bit about the type of people that we saw there from the local community. It was really interesting that at the meal, the locals were only men and predominantly older men.
Yeah, this is my second time here. Last time there were a mix of men and women, but as David said, predominantly men. Some are residents of Chișinău, and then you have people that have come, a lot have come from places like Odessa, which is a short drive from here in better times. There are some students here, Israeli medical students, and people who've come for medical treatment as well. Turkey, which used to be a very popular avenue for overseas medical treatment, has closed. So Israelis trying to find better value have been travelling to countries like Moldova for dental work.
In addition to the older Ukrainians from Odessa, there are also some younger ones who simply don't want to be part of the fighting, don't want to serve, and so they are temporarily, maybe permanently, living here. One country that was mentioned repeatedly during Shabbat and indeed before that, with regard to the Jews of Moldova, was Italy. Did you notice that connection as well?
I did. Some of it was partly to do with education, but a lot of it was to do with people trying to make a better life for themselves. And we found this in the winery earlier. His family had prepared him for a life in Italy. I think his grandmother was there. And again, we were talking to a student of Moldovan origin who was born in Italy, but was now currently in Chișinău.
Moldovans speak Romanian, which is a Romance language, meaning it's linked to the languages of the Mediterranean, and the closest, they say to us, are Italian and Spanish, predominantly Italian. In terms of the layout in the synagogue when we were at the meal, I thought it was very interesting. The people who were more like JC, you and me, those who are coming for dental work, perhaps a couple of tourists, were all somewhat at the far end of the table from the main rabbi, who takes under his wing the older locals who are either Ukrainian or Moldovan, and he's constantly chatting with them in local languages. Just fascinating to watch.
Yes, a lot of these older locals, they were divorced, they were widowed, and this seems to be almost like a social setting for them to come and be with other people, as well as getting a good hot meal and plenty of vodka.
And predominantly not speaking in Romanian during the entire evening.
Obviously, with the history of Moldova being a former Soviet state, Russian is still predominantly used in the older circles.
That's Shabbat from a Jewish perspective, but Shabbat is also a great opportunity to walk. For those of you who do keep Shabbat, you can go to a large city and wander around and not go in public transport, and then start to see things that you wouldn't ordinarily see, either things that you had planned ahead of time, or more interestingly perhaps, just wandering and opening your eyes.
We started in the market, and it is a sensationally large market. You could spend 2 hours in there and get very easily lost. It's a market of all things: electronic goods, fruits, vegetables. There were at least 3 halls serving meat, and we got a chance to see some pig's heads and pig's ears and pig snouts and pig skin all like piled up. Really Shabbatsy.
Charming. From there we wandered through town, and what is fascinating, and remember, Moldova is not the wealthiest country in Europe by any stretch, so at that end of town you see a lot of what you would imagine you would see in Eastern Europe: babushkas, people sitting selling just one produce that they grow in their lot or in their backyard, and generally the clothing was more dowdy, more polyester based. But then we walked half a mile, if that, and it completely changed.
There are 2 very large parks in the centre of town, one which contains the cathedral, the other borders on the Triumphal Arch and some of the government buildings, and it was a much more affluent population within that area. The city had laid on a special all-day festival from, I think, 10 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the evening. There were hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of families just milling around, taking part. Sadly, we didn't bring family with us. We only brought each other and JC, and although JC acts like a child, the family festival was not for him.
That area also has stunning gardens, beautiful trees in full blossom at this time of year. We're here in the middle of May. Just a delight. Lots and lots of coffee shops around, restaurants, and the regular types of stores you would expect to see in a large city.
There was also a drone festival. We didn't go there. It was slightly further out of town, and it was more of an exhibition festival, but it was going to have drone racing and exhibitions about how to fly drones. There's a lot going on in this city. We took ourselves on a little walk away from the parks. We walked down a beautiful street where the pavement is designed to look like a piano, and just off that street we found the memorial to the ghetto and those that lost their lives, who were transported from the ghetto and killed elsewhere. It's on a street called Jerusalem Street, with a big sign explaining the history and the 3,000 years of Jerusalem and the relationship between Jerusalem and Chișinău. And on top of that, we walked down one of the other main roads, and there was a big board that explained that a particular artist had lived there, and he was the artist, I think, in Moldova, who had carved out a lot of the communist statues during that era. But the sign was in English and Hebrew and Romanian,
because he was Jewish. It's interesting you're talking there about names of roads. What was the name of the road where Chabad's located?
Chabad, if you're looking for it and can't find the building, is on Chabad Lubavitchy Street.
That's easy enough. Okay, one more thing before we actually get to the winery, the first of our wineries today. Late at night, 10 o'clock, back in our apartment. What a party.
Yes, we have timed our trip in line with Eurovision. For those of you that don't know Eurovision, it is the European Song Contest. Every country around Europe has the opportunity to enter a song for the competition. There were 37 countries participating, a few not participating because Israel was one of those countries. But we saw a really, really tense finale where Israel, up until the last minute, was leading and lost to an excellent entrant from Bulgaria. But also we saw Moldova finish 5th, and I think they came 2nd in the public vote.
Do you know the name of the song, or can you even sing the song?
I'm not going to sing it. It was called, I think, Viva Moldova or Republic of Moldova.
Very nice rap song. What did you call it? Rap? How would you call it?
It's music, David. Go Moldova Fact File. The main airport in Moldova is Chișinău International Airport. From Tel Aviv to Moldova, there are multiple direct flights operated by Sundor, Israel, Fly One and High Sky. For international connections, there are direct flights from Vienna, Dubai, Frankfurt and Warsaw. Travel from the airport to Chișinău city centre takes around 25 minutes by car. There are shuttle buses from the airport to downtown Chișinău, taking about 40 minutes and costing about 1.2 shekels or 30 cents. Taxis are available for around $10. Chișinău is compact and easy to navigate by taxi or app-based ride services, which are inexpensive by international standards. Travel to Tiraspol in the Transnistrian region takes around 80 minutes. Chișinău has a few global hotel chains like Radisson, Courtyard by Marriott and M Gallery. The Bristol Central and Nobile Luxury are within walking distance of Chabad's synagogue. The pick of Tiraspol hotels are the City Club, Park and Russia hotels. $1 will buy you 17.1 Moldovan lei as of May 2026. Cash is useful in the Transnistrian region as international credit cards are not widely accepted. Moldova borders the Black Sea, giving it a mild and sunny climate. Summers can be warm and long with temperatures averaging around 20 degrees Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit. And the winters can be relatively mild and dry with temperatures averaging -4 degrees Celsius, 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Moldovan cuisine is full of meats, potatoes, cabbage and a variety of cereal grains and resembles neighbouring Romanian cuisine. Speciality dishes include mamaliga, a polenta-based porridge, sarmale, cabbage or vine leaves filled with meat and rice, koltunasi, similar to Polish pierogi, and placinta, which are stuffed pies. Chabad in Chișinău are able to provide 3 meals a day and Shabbat meals. Details at kosher.md.
Hi guys, my name is Edward and I represent the Carlevana Winery from Republic of Moldova.
Just give us the location. Where are you compared to the capital and so on?
This is a winery. We are situated 25 kilometers from capital, Chișinău. So it's very close to the central and to the center of Moldova, actually.
We were eating on Friday night at the Chabad house, and on the table there was a bottle of Carlevana wine. So obviously we had to come and investigate where kosher wine in Moldova comes from. How much of a kosher winery is this, and what else does the winery produce?
It's not that many kosher production in Moldova. Actually, there is a brandy production, but one of the biggest, and I would say the best at the moment, is the Carlevana Winery, which produced the kosher for many years, but starting again in 2022, because the first batches, as I know, it was in 2012, and I will show you a bottle soon. But at the moment, we increase this niche, we getting better, and we try to widen our range for new and new wines, and to get more and more indigenous as well, because we produce the orange wine kosher. It's something new, and I believe the people will like it.
Moldova has a very small Jewish community, just over 1,000 people. So why on earth produce kosher wine?
Producing kosher wine is not for Moldova. It's not about the internal market. So at the moment we sell our wines around the world, and we open new and new markets. At the moment we are good in Israel. We are still increasing there. We are good in United States. There is a big market. So it's not about the internal market. And we try to open new markets where the community and to share our nice wines with them.
As we walked up the stairs of the winery, because the winery is built on a hill, you told us that this winery was aiming to be high quality, not mass production. But that's not always been the history of this winery. Tell us about how this winery began.
The winery began as just a simple winery, a big winery, as many of them was on territory of Moldova during the Soviet period. During the years, they produced tens of thousands of tons here. At the moment, we are stopped because this is a private winery. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. So at the moment, we do over 500 tons per year. So it means that it's more than 20 times less than during the Soviet. But as I said, it's about the quality. Now we are focused on different markets, on different niche of products. So it's mean now to work on the price, to work on the good products, to cover different niche, as we covered now the kosher production as well, which is something interesting for us, which of course it's not that far as a tradition for us and for our owner as well.
We're travelling through this beautiful country with our friend JC, and he always has a question when it comes to alcohol. I'm sure many people are curious to understand the difference between the production of kosher wine to non-kosher wine. Could you briefly explain the process?
Yes, sure. Actually, the kosher wines and non-kosher wines, no difference in technological. Everything it's going the same as all the steps for non-kosher wines in our winery. But the difference is their tradition. It's everything what is made during the production of kosher is by rabbi team and the Jewish community. Yes, so they produce, they touch. We cannot touch anything. And all the supervision and to advise how to do it is about our winemaker, but even he doesn't touch anything. He just tell how to do it, and everything is sealed during the process. Everything is supervision by the rabbi, and then at the end when we do a bottling also is supervision by the rabbi from Israel to give us our final certificate to make sure that our wines is kosher and can be drinked by the Jewish community.
We've walked through the production process. We started at the top with the grapes. We've been near the big vats. We're down here with the barrels. But we're also in a cellar with 60,000 dusty bottles of old wine, some of them dating back 20, 25 years.
My feeling is almost like we're in the London Underground, the beautiful tiles on the wall, the cool before you get the heat of the trains coming through, but it's just a series of corridors like a little maze, cobwebs. It's just an amazing setting.
You walk past some of the labels of the casas, which are, I think, the name of the storage areas, and you see like a Cabernet Sauvignon from 2002. Edouard was telling us that they retail for around 40, 50 euros. I mean, it's unimaginable to be able to buy wine like that. Is there a plan to have an area in the casa with kosher wines that are going to be 10, 15 years old?
Yeah, it's still a long time to go, but actually at the moment we have some kosher wines in collection. They are small batches. As I said, we start some batches in 2012, so we have some kosher wines in our collection. What to say more about the collection wines? It's for connoisseurs, it's for the people who understand and taste really nice wines for years.
I, along with many people, have a small collection of wine that they've been given or bought over the years. Which type of wines last better and why?
Reds, of course, are much better for collection or for aging in bottles. And what's main 80% of our wines here is the Cabernet Sauvignon, because have a great potential to be aged in bottles. But actually, we have the white wines as well, which shows that the good results, but you cannot age them more than 20 years. You should drink them at 15. That's the maximum what you can do from whites and getting a good quality.
Thank you very much indeed. For now, we're going to carry on the tour, and guess where we'll meet you in a couple of minutes' time.
Now we are starting the tasting of our kosher wines. What we placed for the tasting today is 5 types of wines. Some of them are mevushal, some of them are non-mevushal. So in the same time, we will compare if the wine is mevushal affect or not the taste and the aroma. By the way, we have today a Riesling, we have a Pinot Noir, we have a Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, and our top high-end wine is the Le Sorec as a blend of Malbec and Merlot, 12 months in the barrel aged. This is a Riesling 2024 vintage, It was 3 months in contact with oak. It's on the label. You see that is a old wine. It's old wine because the vineyard is 30 years old. So this is a special Riesling actually. It's the kosher. It has 3 types of the kashrut, and also this wine is mevushal. I'm drinking kosher as well, no problem. So the wine has a golden nuances, pale ale, pale yellow. It has not the freshness because it was in oak contact, but then has notes of oak. You feel a little bit of benzolic aroma, which is very common for Riesling, and it's positive actually. So now the taste is very well balanced, good acidity. The alcohol in this wine is not that high, is around 11.5 alcohol, so it's very drinkable.
Go for it, Mark. What do you think?
Well, firstly, it's got a nice sharpness to it. I'm a bit of an ignoramus with white wines, so I always associate Riesling with being less dry, but I'm wrong, I think, completely. This is a nice, dry, sharp.
I have to actually agree with Mark. It's got a very dry aftertaste, a really nice bouquet, I think it's called. I'm not a wine expert, but I would happily drink this. It's very easy to drink, possibly too easy to drink.
So Edward is opening our final bottle, and this one is called Le Sorec. And if you are wondering, have I heard the word Sorec before? Yes, it's named after the river and the valley that runs all the way from Jerusalem down to the coast around about Rishon LeZion, Palmachim.
Are you sure it's not named after Soroka, which is a town or a village in Moldova?
And the name of a hospital in Beersheba, but they have no connection to each other.
Moshe Soroka was from Minsk. We'll have to go there one day.
There you go. Anyway, tell us about the Le Sorec.
Le Sorec is a blend of 2 wines, 2 kosher wines, Malbec and Merlot. The proportion, of course, the Malbec is as a main variety, over 60%, is the vintage 2022 red dry wine. And this wine was also in contact with oak for 12 months. So it's a full body, it's aged wine, and it's really, really nice wine.
You can, of course, arrange a kosher wine tour here, and it's a very, very special place. This, if you come to Chișinău, as we've said, it's 25 kilometers. It takes about half an hour to get here, just past the airport. It's beautifully laid out. It's got a play area. They're talking about reopening a restaurant here. It's just a lovely, lovely experience, and the cellars are just a fascinating visit.
It's like going through a museum of wine. Not only have you got the dusty old bottles, you've got old labels from the Soviet era, you've got books all about viticulture and wine, and there were some old bottles of wine in cases, some dating back to the 1940s, I think.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating insight into the world of winemaking. And with 15% approximately right now and going up of production being kosher, it's also something, I guess, you know, for those who do keep kosher, it's something to support, because there aren't that many places, certainly in Eastern Europe, that are creating kosher wines.
And ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to drive. A taxi here from the centre of Chișinău will cost you only $15 to get here. So you can come here, not worry about spending money on the taxi particularly, and come and enjoy this experience.
Shall we taste?
Because this wine need more aeration, because usually a full body, high-end wines, It might be tasted in decanter to get oxygenation for at least half an hour. We are not prepared today for this.
You've already had enough of us.
Yeah, it's Sunday.
See, we should have opened this at the beginning and then started the wine tasting.
It's good to have it in decanter, such wines, because it's changed a lot aromatically when it's getting more oxygen, because now, it was closed in bottle for 3 years. So the wine is, people, if you open from the room, you should used to do it with a new society.
So if you've had a bottle that's had a cork in it for 3 years, how long can you keep the wine in the decanter or in the bottle after you've opened it? Take the example of Le Sorec.
During the same evening. It's the best way to decant a bottle of wine and drink in the same evening. If you storage it, or you put it back in the bottle and close the bottle, it could have life for 1-2 days as well, because it's a red wine. It has a big potential to get good for next couple of days. But I don't know the people who drink the wines for 3 days. For example, I'm doing this in the same evening.
So what are the signs that the wine is no longer of quality? How does somebody know that I should have already finished the wine?
It's about the oxygenation, because the wine, the oxygen in the same time is the worst point for the wine during the production, but also you need oxygenation to get the wine better. So it's like kind of misunderstanding that how the wine oxygen in the same time could work good for the wine, could work bad for the wine. So of course, if the wine you open and you are not closed, if your bottle are not topped, of course you have oxygen there, and it's starting process with getting worst quality for your wine. By the way, the wine is good to be opened and drink in the same evening with a good food.
Have you tried it yet?
I have.
Oh, surprise, surprise, because I was asking my usual thousands of questions.
You were saying how long should it be open? I calculated that, to finish that bottle of wine, I need to drink quite rapidly now.
Well,
before our driver turns
There
up.
are 5 of us here. Our driver is already here.
Yeah, don't let him in here.
You're listening to the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition. Find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at MarkDavidPod, or mail us at markdavidpod@gmail.com. Mark, thoughts?
I think it's wonderful to come outside of Israel, but it's great to see wine made in other markets, especially in countries where there is a wine tradition, but we're not exposed to it. So in a future podcast, you'll hear us talking about brandies and kosher brandies being made, but here you're getting high quality kosher wine, and hopefully when it comes to the Israeli market, it will be a very reasonable price. It certainly is when you buy it here.
And if you think, if maybe you're not overly experienced in the world of wine, and all you think is that the best wines are coming out of France, Italy, maybe a couple of the other countries, just go online and look up Moldova's wine tradition and what experts think about Moldovan wine today. And this is just one sample of what this country has to offer.
It's a fascinating story. Moldova was essentially the factory of the whole Soviet bloc, producing wine en masse in tankers, going up to bottling plants en masse. And, Russia had, as Edouard explained when we did the tour, there'd be maybe 1-2 types of Sauvignon Blanc. There would be a very limited range. Now these winemakers are taking that experience, they're taking the vineyards they have, and they're producing high quality wines, and it's fabulous.
Do you think we should go visit another winery?
Nah.
Edouard, thank you so much indeed for your expertise and for your hospitality.
Thank you very much.
And one more important question. If anybody wants to know more about this winery, do you have a website?
Yes, sure. Carlevana.md. You are welcome, and we will like to have you as a guest.
That's Carlevana, CARLEVANA.MD. Thank you again.
Thank you guys for visiting us. I really enjoyed the time with you.
Whoa! Wow, that's a sharp bend there, David.
Certainly is. It felt like Formula One or Indy. You okay, JC?
I'm all right, thank you. Just about hanging on.
we are facing backwards and going fast in the other directions the way we're facing.
Yes, we have come to Miesti Mici, which is the largest winery, certainly in terms of its underground caves and cellars. I believe there's something like over 200 kilometres of cellars, around 150 miles. And we are zooming on the back of the golf cart, holding on for dear life, and about to find out what this winery contains.
Everywhere we're going, there are huge barrels to the sides. No idea if they're in use or not. And they're very similar to the largest barrels that we saw when we were back in Karlovana. They were made, they call them Kafkazi or Caucasian barrels. Absolutely immense. They can hold 4,500 litres. But, are we slowing down?
No, I think we're just taking another bend.
A wine waterfall.
Yes, sadly it's a waterfall, but it may be related to the water that goes into the wine. We're half a kilometre in and 30 metres down so far in the caves. We heard a little bit about the production here, that 2/3 of it goes to China, mainly because it's such a large market. But Moldova also has the proud distinction of being the 3rd largest wine consumer per capita in the world.
JC,
Yes.
what do you know about Benin in Africa?
Not a lot, to be honest.
Mark, what do you know about Benin in Africa? You probably know the colours of the flag.
Taking a safe bet, given half the African flags are this colour, there's some red, yellow and green.
Pretty much accurate. I can tell you one other thing. The president of Benin, along with many other companies, businesses that you will have heard of no matter where you live in the world, have rented a space where we are right now for €500 a year, where they can store their own personal bottles from this winery.
Walking around the winery, we have seen hundreds, if not thousands, of casas, which are the holes in the wall where you store wine from a particular batch. One of the interesting things to note that a lot of the casas were from between 86 and 1989. That's when the wine was produced, bottled at a later date. It seems to predominate. Did you hear why, David?
Was it something to do with the Soviet Union?
It was. When Gorbachev took over as leader of the Soviet Union, he introduced prohibition, which meant all of the wine that was being produced here for a number of years couldn't be sold. So it was great for somewhere like Miesti Mici because it had all of these caverns and all of these caves where it could store up production for a later date. And when Prohibition ended at the end of the 80s, they were awash with wine that they could hit the market with.
JC, are you cold?
Top tip, wrap up warm when you come here.
So another quick top tip, we're getting off the vehicle now, but talk to me about photography down here.
These are sites that you won't see on a regular wine tour. There are literally thousands and thousands of bottles stacked from the floor to the ceiling. The very oldest ones are covered in cobwebs, and it's a site really, really, very, very special, and I think we're quite privileged to be down here. And also the huge, huge barrels that we spoke about before make for some very, very nice photographs.
Well, that was fun.
It was a nice little brief tour of the cavernous caverns. Is that the word?
Cavernicious.
Cavernaceous. Cabernet Sauvignon.
Very good, and we have not been drinking. Do you enjoy it, JC?
Cavernous is the word you're looking for. Yes, it was very exciting. Miles and miles of tunnels and cold but rewarding.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And a gift for everybody who comes here. Mark, what are the packages that you can have here as a visitor?
We went for the basic package because we've already been to at least one winery today.
So at least.
We came for the basic tour. So with the basic tour, you get 40 minutes, come and see everything that they have at Miesti Mici, and then go home. For an additional 400 lei to 800 lei, you can get various packages involving tasting of the wine and lots of lovely plates of meat and cheese. As David doesn't eat meat, and none of us really want to eat meat and cheese, we've just gone for the basic package, and we're now heading out of here to somewhere that's above sub-zero.
You said 400 to 800 lei. What's that in currency that our listeners might be familiar with?
For our Israeli listeners, if you take the lei and divide by 6, that's how you get there. So just say 400 lei, that's about 80 shekels. divide that for dollars, you're dividing by another 3. So it's about $20, $25 for a wine tasting. Very reasonable.
The Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition.
It's a very nice wine to pair with food, but you can also drink it just on its own, and that we will do just now.
It's such a pleasure meeting an entire crew that are so smiley, so happy, and so invested in the work that they do.
Welcome in Würzburg, and it's time to let the party begin. From Jerusalem to just about everywhere, the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition.
Oh, blimey, I am tired, David.
You are probably drunk.
No, I think I've sobered up. I think they must have watered down the wine.
Oh, you could get sued for saying things like that, so we're not saying which of the wineries Mark's talking about.
It was somewhere we went afterwards. None of the lovely wineries we featured watered down the wine.
It's been an amazing, amazing trip. All of that in 2 days. Well worth doing. A long weekend in Moldova.
And there was so much more we could do, but we didn't want you to fall asleep at the wheel listening to this. So we tried to keep it as brief as possible. So thank you to all the people that didn't appear on the pod, because we didn't have time for you.
This is already one of our longest pods ever. So thank you to everybody. Go for the list, Mark.
Okay, let's start with the wonderful Irina, who guided us through the Jewish cemetery and through Orhei. To Teddy and Madalina at the National Tourism Office for all their help, and especially Teddy, who drove us around when he didn't need to.
The ambassador?
I'll get to the ambassador.
Ooh, go on.
Let's talk about people and wine first. To Sergio at Chateau Vartelli and to Edward at Carlavana, who kept us plied with drink and information all about their wonderful wineries.
Ambassador?
To Ambassador Alexander Reutmann, who has been helping us prepare this trip for a couple of years and providing us with all the useful contacts who have made this trip what it is and kept us plied with more wine. Finally, Olga in the office of the President of Moldova, who I've had a lovely meeting with, who helped organise parts of this trip as well.
Ooh, did you get a knighthood or something?
I'm waiting for my medal.
Cool. You know what to do, folks. Not about Mark's medal, but follow, share, like, etc., at Mark David Pod on the socials. Mark, quiz question.
I think it was about drunks getting lost, wasn't it?
You're going into legal minefields again, although they're all dead.
Which Russian president got drunk and got lost in one of the wineries of Moldova? It was Nikita Khrushchev.
Surprise, surprise.
I had my money on Yuri Andropov, because he drank too much wine and he just had drop off like that.
Oh dear. Okay, that's it, folks. Enough.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for listening to the podcast. We'll see you in 2 weeks from some other luscious destination.
Goodbye.
Farewell.
Cheers.